All right, guys, I'm doing a tour with my mom and my aunt. Love you guys.
You're gonna run out of battery. Huh? Let's go, Doc.
All right.
Yeah.
Have you guys been on a carriage ride in Charleston?
No, I never.
If something happens to me now, you're in charge. All right? If something happens to me, you take his nose and you point it back to that bar. He'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll figure it out. That's where his food and his beer is. Right? Well, guys, first of all, welcome to Charleston. My name's David. I'm a native Charlestonian. This is my hometown. Only about 15% of the people who live here are actually from here. Right? The Chamber of Commerce will tell you that we got between 30 and 35 people a day moving into Charleston. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a lot of people, right, for a city our size. But I'm gonna tell you it's a good thing. Because when I was growing up here, the gene pool was starting to get a little shallow. But you know, all these people moving into Charleston, it really does create a diversity here. And that's a really good thing for our community. I went to a little school up in Virginia, not too far from where you guys are, a little place called Hampton-Sydney College, down in Farmville, Virginia. I studied colonial history. I played football there back when we had leather helmets. I came home and I ended up practicing law here for 27 years.
Oh my goodness.
Well, that was enough. You know, I woke up one day and I realized I got a lot more yesterdays than I got tomorrows. You know? And I wanted to do something fun. So I sold my practice out to my partners about 5 years ago. Came down here and became a tour guide. And this is kind of what I do, right? I get to hang around really nice people from all over the world, really every day. And I get to hang around with my buddy up front, right? This is 2,000 pounds of Belgian dry food.
Wow.
His name is TikTok. You can tell he was named by one of the millennials in the barn. TikTok comes to us from Holmes County, Ohio. Wow. An Amish community up there where he was used to pulling plow 6 days a week, sun up and sun down. Yep. When the Amish don't want their animals anymore, they have these big auctions. And we'll go up and we'll get them, we'll bring them down here, and we'll repurpose them. We'll give them something to do, you know, sort of in their semi-retirement years. But, you know, animal welfare has really always been one of the most important aspects of what we do as a company. So we're going to take his temperature after every tour to make sure that he's okay. Come on. And that he's not overheating. And I always ask for a volunteer to help me with that. Which one of you guys wants to help take the animals?
Yeah, volunteer in the back.
Yeah. Come on, let's go. Just remember, you got about an hour, about a half hour so to think about that.
Yeah.
Just remember, we don't do that orally. We deal with the south end and the north end. But when he works, he's only going to work 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He does get paid vacation. He'll spend a third of the year out at our farm.
Oh, how nice.
Just south of here.
Look at that guy.
He's got a retirement plan. When he doesn't want to work anymore, we're going to gift him out to a charitable organization. It's probably going to be somebody like Wounded Warrior.
Wow.
You know, where he's likely to be used for therapy. And you ladies, you'll be glad to know you get a new pair of shoes every 6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty good, right? The shoes we use in Charleston, about ½ inch thick, made out of recycled rubber. We use those because it's easier on his joint. It doesn't tear the streets up like traditional metal shoes do. Neighbors like it because it doesn't create as much noise. So it's a really good thing for all. Come on. All right. Now, this is the city market.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Now the city market is built on what at one time was a creek called Daniel Creek. That creek flowed all the way in from the Cook River.
Oh my God.
About 3 or 4 blocks that way, all the way back up through here. And in the early 1800s, I know, that's right. In the early 1800s, the city of Charleston reclaimed all this land. Look at that loser. That's your daddy's car? And we built this market on. It's been an open air market every year since 1807. 364 days a year. It is always closed on Christmas. So if you're ever in Charleston on Christmas, you need something, there's not much sense in coming to the market. You can go to Target. Now, some people will also call that the old slaves market. Anytime you hear that phrase, slaves market, you have to remember there's no historical evidence that any slave was ever sold in any of those buildings. When you hear that phrase, slaves market, that is the possessive use of the word slave. This was their market. They would come here and they would sell things like vegetables and fruit and poultry and fish. Now that doesn't mean that we didn't sell slaves in Charleston, because we did. So the question then becomes, well, if you didn't sell them here, where did you sell them? And the answer to that is, hey, how are you, young lady? Yeah, he didn't auto. Slave traders would come into Charleston and they would just put a block of wood down somewhere down on the ground and they would sell whatever slaves they had. But most of those sales took place down here on Cook River, on the river, right? All right, you done? You got a radiator leak.
They say that there's a museum, no? Slave museum.
There's a slave mart museum on Chalmers Street, which is about 4 or 5 blocks south of here.
Oh, okay.
And I'll show you where it is. When
Okay, because we want to make sure that we
Right. They sold them down by the river. All right. I know. All right. Tell them about the church. St. Philip's. Now, St. Philip's is the oldest congregation in the city of Charleston. The congregation there dates back to 1680, 10 years after Charleston was founded.
Yeah.
But that's the third church on that site. The first one burned in a big fire. The second one was knocked down by a really strong hurricane. The one you see right there dates back to the 1830s. But it was damaged by a big earthquake we had here in 1886, right now. A lot of people don't know this, but the city of Charleston actually sits on 2 fault lines. We're prone to having small quakes here pretty regularly. Any given year, we're likely to have 6 or 7 small earthquakes.
Wow.
Usually they're all so small you can't feel them. The last one we had here was actually strong enough to make the newspaper about 5 months ago. But you see that 3-story house over there?
Yeah.
Look at those orange squares on that house.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Those orange squares, those are earthquake bolts.
Oh.
Now, this earthquake we had 5 months ago, shockingly high, 3.3 on the Richter scale. Let me tell you something. You tell somebody from Los Angeles, California, that you just suffered through a 3.3, and they'll laugh at you. But in 1886, it was entirely different. 1886, the city of Charleston suffered what many geologists believe to be a 7.5. Now, that's a big earthquake. Even people in California, they'll tell you that. The eyewitnesses that day said that there was a wave that rolled through the streets of Charleston, and it ended up damaging and destroying about 1,000 buildings here. Catastrophic day in the history of the city. Hey, buddy. But the real problem with the earthquake in 1886 really was not the severity of it. The real problem was the timing. It hit us right after the end of the American Civil War. And during the Civil War, the city of Charleston had been bombarded by the Union artillery for 587 straight days. Now think about this, guys. Think about being in a city where the bombs are falling on you every day for almost a year and a half. That had to have been terrifying, really, to the people who lived here. But it was so bad here towards the end of the war that after William Tecumseh Sherman burned half the state of Georgia in its famous March to the Sea, he'd already burned Atlanta to the ground. He captured the city of Savannah. He was only 100 miles south of here, and he had a Union army with him that numbered more than 75,000 troops. Everybody knew he was coming to Charleston because this is where the war started. You know what he did? He bypassed Charleston. He went straight to the capital city of Columbia, South Carolina. And it got burned to the ground. And after the war, they asked him, Sherman, why didn't you come to Charleston and punish those people for starting this terrible war? His response was, there was nothing left in Charleston for his army to burn. Right, so that comes out of his diary. Those are his words. They're not mine. Yeah, right? So here comes the earthquake in 1886. We don't have any money. You know, the economy here had been totally crushed by the war. So we needed to figure out some innovative, cheap way to fix all these buildings that have been damaged by the earthquake. Those earthquake bolts you saw back there on that house, that's how we did it. They're really nothing but nuts and washers on the outside. There's a metal bar that goes right through the middle of the flooring system of that house. And they used to turn that metal bar every so often. It would pull against the nuts and the washers on the outside, and it would pull the building back together. And that's how we did it. It was really creative.
Really?
Yeah, really creative, very inexpensive. But you go see these things all over Charleston. And if you see them on a building, you know that building had to have been here when the earthquake hit. Otherwise, it wouldn't have the bolts, right? So it's got to be older than the year 1886. So I use them to date buildings. Anytime anybody ever asks me how old a building is, the very first thing I do is I look for those earthquake bolts. And if I see them, then I know the building had to have been here when the earthquake hit. Now, the other thing about that steeple I showed you back there, that steeple at St. Philip's, it was hit no less than 10 times during the Union bombardment of Charleston during the Civil War. And Charlestonians, a lot of them will tell you that the steeple might lean a little to the left because of the earthquake. But in the same breath, they'll tell you the congregation of that church leans to the right. And when they tell you that, they're not lying to you. I promise. A lot of really conservative people. All right. Now, this is the Gibbs Art Gallery. This is our little art gallery. And it's not Guggenheim, I guess. But there's a lot of really cool paintings and stuff in here. So if you need a place to kind of dish out the rain or whatever, this is a good spot to spend an hour, hour and a half with. But if you like fried green tomatoes, you know, which is right? You like them? Well, Southern Living Magazine says that this little restaurant right here, Eli's Table, has the best fried green tomatoes in the country. Yeah. So if you're looking for a place to eat fried green tomatoes, that's it.
Fried green tomatoes, Elps Table,
You
right?
eat the best of something,
Best.
you not going to want second best next time. So you got to go back to Charleston, fried green tomatoes. And that's okay. You don't need a reason. You need a reason. All right, come on, kid. Good boy. Yep. Big old hotel right here on the right. The Mills House Hotel. Now this is the grand old hotel in Charleston. Right. You see Jim? See Jim up there, do you? That is Jim. That's right.
It's the bride coming. Getting into
They'll tell you this is the grand old hotel in Charleston. But at least that's what they'll tell you. The original was built in the 1840s. It survived the Civil War, the earthquake of 1886, fire after fire, hurricane after hurricane, only to succumb to the lowly termite in the 1950s. That's not the original. They had to tear it down. The only original parts of it, the balcony out front, and 2 of those window quarters. But you know what? Today it's got Wi-Fi. That's all they got.
Yeah, that's all people care about.
Yeah. 3 of the best restaurants in Charleston. Pugin Sports. Named after a dog by the name of Pugin. Pugin used to play with people on the porch. When he died, they buried him right there. There's a little tombstone there that says, "Rest in peace, Pugin." You know, to this day, if you sit outside and eat Pugin's porch, and you drop some food on the ground, it'll disappear. Only dog ghosts find out. Right? You got Husk, voted best new restaurant in America. Probably still in the top 10 to 15 out of 20. Really good stuff. They cook everything over oak. Created by one of the celebrity chefs, a guy named Sean Brock. And then you got, this is one of my favorites right here, 82 Queen. 82 Queen has what I think is the best she crab soup in the city. So if you eat anything in Charleston, hey, look who it is. My friends right here from Virginia, Wyoming, and California.
Wow.
Right? Right. That man, young man right there, he's from California. Right? Right? Front, stays out on the front row and the second seat come out here. Right. Couple hours. Are you guys having a good time? Yeah, man, I'm glad to hear it, buddy. But she crab soup is the one. Whoa, she crab soup is the one thing you got to eat while you're in Charleston.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a chef by the name of William Day. Took traditional crab chowder and took the corn and the potatoes out of it and put crab roe or crab eggs in the bottom of it.
Oh my God.
Those eggs, that's what made it she crab. Yeah, I know you like she crab. But if it didn't have the eggs, they called it he crab. Put a little bit of sherry right across the top of it. Good stuff. Good afternoon. All right. Now, the other thing that people eat in restaurants around here is something called shrimp and grits.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I love that.
Well, let me tell you something about that. When I was a kid, my grandmother made a big pot of grits for breakfast. We ate grits a lot because it's cheap, right? And she lived out on the river. I'd go out on her dock, throw my cast net, catch some shrimp, right? And we catch some shrimp. We put those in the grits. Every woman in the South keeps a little bit of bacon grease by her stove. We use that to make brown gravy, and we ate shrimp and grits a lot because it didn't cost us nothing. Now, people like you guys are paying $28 for a bowl of shrimp and grits. And I'm like, that's crazy. You know, if I'd have known that, I'd have never gone to law school. I'd have bought a food truck. All right. All right, so here we are on King Street. King Street is sort of the shopping mecca of the city of Charleston. Down on this end of King Street, the southern end, you're going to find a lot of really cool antique stores.
Oh, yeah.
You get up around Charleston Place Hotel several blocks north of here, and that's where you're going to find your national and your international retailers. Stores like Gucci, Godiva, Louis Vuitton, Kate Spade, places like that. But what a lot of people don't know about King Street, this part of it right here, this is the highest point of elevation on the Charleston Peninsula. That probably explains why your ears are popping. It's the elevation. You're all of 166 inches above sea level right now. Yep. So if you need to chew some gum or something, kind of get that blockage out of your head, that don't bother me. Just don't put it up to the system. The oldest wood.
Hear the Air Force in the background. Blessings. 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 Historic district of any city in this country. Only Rome, Italy's historic district is larger on an international basis. And because of that, we have a very active Board of Architectural Review here and a very active Preservation Society. Those people, they govern everything you can do to the outside of your house. Now, they can't tell you what to do on the inside. The outside, it's really hard to get your mailbox painted around here unless you got somebody's approval. But one of the hot buttons for them have always been the shutters that you see on these houses. If you notice, the shutters are made out of wood.
Right? They're not going to let you put a vinyl or some composite shutter on the home of the historic district. If you're in the vinyl shutter business, there's no worse place in the world to open a satellite office in downtown Charleston. You won't sell one. We can't use it. The other thing about it is they work. They function. It blows up on the window. And that's because of the hurricane. You know, you don't want things blowing around here 150 miles an hour impacting glass that could be centuries old, right?
Wow.
That's a bad idea. So we make sure we protect our glass. That's a good example of the earthquake faults right there, too. All right. Now, we're coming up to an intersection, Meeting and Broad. This is the main commercial intersection in the city. They call this the four corners of law. And the reason for that is because all the buildings on this intersection, every one of the four buildings has something to do with the law, right? This is the United States Post Office and the U.S. District Court. That's federal law, right? Then you got St. Michael's. St. Michael's is the oldest church building in Charleston. Dates back to the year 1761. All right, so that they call that God's law. This is the Charleston County Courthouse right here. Whoa. That's nothing. So you have county law over there. Then you got Charleston City Hall, which is right up ahead.
Oh, that's City Hall right there.
Right. So you had God's law, federal law, city law, and county law. All at the same intersection. So they call it the four corners of the law. They say it's the only place this happens in the entire United States of America. Believe it or not. I don't really call it that. I call it hail, mail, jail, and bail. Well, this is what I found out. The older I get, the easier it is to remember things that rhyme. Right? It really is the only place I know of where you can get a marriage license, get married, and get divorced all within 100 yards. All right. Washington Square.
That's
Now,
a beautiful.
Yeah, big old statue of Gentleman George Washington right in the middle of it. Commemorating his victory at Yorktown. This is the first fireproof building that was built in the United States. It's now the home of the South Carolina Historical Society. It's where they keep all their records and stuff like that. And then you got Chalmers Street. Now, Chalmers Street is the longest cobblestone street in the city of Charleston. Yeah. These cobblestones came here as ballast in the bottom of merchant ships. And when the ships got here, we took those stones out, we filled those ships up with things we grew here, like indigo, rice, and cotton. We shipped it all over the world. But those stones, they stayed here. But they're all irregularly shaped river stones, so you really can't build anything out of them, so we made roads out of them. But Chalmers Street's a little different. It's got its own street cred, as my son said. Over the last 100 years or so, if a lady is with child and she's past her due date, we bring her down here and ride her over those cobblestones. Old Charlestonians. I did that? Yeah. Old Charlestonians, like my grandma, she called that labor street rotation. You don't hear that much anymore because that generation is back. How you guys doing today?
How y'all doing?
Happy Halloween!
You doing
I
good?
wear this all.
I know, right? I know. The Crafts House. But you know, one of the things that sort of shaped the way this city looks today is the concept of fire. We've had 5 of these so-called great fires here. And to me, a great fire is a fire that burns down at least 300 buildings.
Wow.
We've had 5 of them. It took us that many to realize we shouldn't be cooking over an open fire in a wooden house. You know, most people learn that after one fire. Well, that tells you something about us. But you got one of the prettiest churches in Charleston coming up here, Circular Congregational Church. This is the fourth church on this site. First three all burned in big fires. But it's got the oldest graveyard.
Oh, how
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's got the oldest graveyard in the city.
Oh, look, how
That
beautiful.
barrel-shaped grave right there, that's a Simmons grave. Dates back to the year 1695.
See that barrel?
But the church itself is built in the shape of a three-leaf clover. If you ever go inside that church, you won't find one corner anywhere in the building. It's totally rounded. Some people say that's to help the donation plate go around. I don't know about all that. But it's my favorite graveyard in the city. A lot of really old graves in there. Cool place.
And this is the street that they sold the slaves in this area.
That cobblestone street right there,
Yeah.
that's where the slave market is. That's where the slave market museum is. All right.
Hey, how are you? It looks nice. I like your outfit.
When we get around this corner of this bank building right here, you can look back and you can see the circular nature of the construction of the building of the church. You get a really good look at the graveyard too. If you notice, it's not open. Yeah, there's your graveyard. Now there's a big oak tree in the back of this graveyard. I think that this is the oldest live oak on the peninsula of Charleston. I think this tree is about 275 years old. But that pales in comparison to the angel oak, which is south of Charleston. They think that tree is over 1,000 years old. It's the oldest living thing east of Mississippi River. So if you get a chance, you got a car, drive out to the angel oak. Really cool thing. Right? Yeah, that's the old oak tree. How you doing, Vincent? Good, man. You look sporty. Now, this little building right here on the right, the old Powder Magazine, is the oldest public building in North or South Carolina. This building was built for one purpose and one purpose only, and that was to store black powder during the colonial days. It was built in 1713. The theory was if the black powder ever blew up, the roof would be raised off the building and sand would come back down to the fire. So that was the theory. Thank God they never had to test out, because I don't think that one would work. All right. Now we find ourselves back at St. Philip's. They call it the Westminster of the South. But it's unique among Charleston churches. It has a graveyard and a cemetery. And if you don't know the difference, graveyards are always next to a church, cemeteries are not. So the graveyard's over here by the church, the cemetery is across the street.
The bells. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, how pretty, how pretty.
Yeah, great.
Beautiful. Like that.
Bells are ringing.
Wedding bells are ringing. I don't know who that's for.
All right. Yeah, those are your earthquake bolts right there. Yeah, that's a really good set of them. And that tells you a couple things. It tells you that building suffered a lot of damage from the earthquake, but it also tells you that the building was probably standing when the earthquake hit here. So it's got to be older than 1886. Otherwise, it wouldn't have that bolt. Same goes for the brick building right here. All right. Now, you got a little alley right here, Philadelphia Alley. Originally known as Kinlock's Alley. We had one of the big fires we had in the 1700s. The city of Philadelphia sent us a bunch of money to help us recover from that fire. And they renamed that little alley after the city of Philadelphia. To honor that city for helping us out in our time. All right. We're going to go up here. We're going to make a left on State Street. State Street used to be known as Union Street, but you can understand why they changed the name of it during the Civil War. Now over here on the right, you got the Scotchman. Absolutely no historical value at all. But it is open 24 hours a day in case you need something. But don't let anybody tell you that's where Robert E. Lee bought his first Budweiser.
Oh, really?
Because that's not true. Now you got the cool places to hang out down in the market. The oyster bar, they have really good shellfish here. Oysters, shrimp, and crabs. They take big old gobs of pimento cheese, they ball it up, and they deep fry it like a hush puppy. They call it a pimento cheese fritter. One of the best appetizers you see in Charleston. And if you're looking for good local seafood, this is a good spot right here. The Crab House. You can tell something about the age of these buildings by the earthquake bolts on them. Well, look at that, Kira.
Oh, yeah.
Kira cut her hair. You cut your hair? Yeah, looks good. Maggie May, you finished? Good for you.
We have the market there, so I love that place. I love to walk in there. Yeah, this tourist season, they have it all full, but otherwise.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Come on, guys, really? It's not you. This is the problem with the Ubers in the city of Charleston, right here. I mean, you know.
That's not
They can go in the corners.
You got that right.
Oh yeah, the limos are the worst.
Come on, step up.
Yeah. We got 15 people in there.
Stop that car.
Come on.
Fucking idiot. Stopping right in the middle of the street. What is that? BKY 136? I got it. All right, now this is a great place to hang out right here. This is Henry's. Henry's is the longest continuously operating bar restaurant in Charleston. It opened on the same day in 1932 that Johnny Cash was born.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you see a lot of Cash paintings and stuff in here. Henry's has live music every night, and they have a rooftop deck up here, which is a really cool place to sit out and look over the market. So that's a really cool place to hang out, right? If you want something fun, though, you ought to try the Booze Pop.
What is that?
The Booze Pop is a cocktail on a stick. It's like a popsicle with alcohol in it. Right? Yeah, really good stuff. That's the only way that we can legally carry alcohol around the street. Because the mayor thinks that's a food, not a beverage.
And this restaurant must be very expensive. No?
It is very expensive. It's very good. It's called Amstel. You guys have a good time.
Thank you
Yeah,
very
man, we
much.
got to see some good stuff.
Yeah. Friday. Oh wow, look at that horse. What did they put in there?
Congratulations.
Huh?
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So what you guys gonna do the rest of the night?
Now go to the market a little bit and walk around, and then you can sit down there. And there's an area there. You have coffee and all that. Yeah, coffee. And then there's a street that goes around the big mansions, you know, by the bay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's called East Bay.
What's it called?
East Bay.
East Bay Street. That's beautiful. Yeah, we're right around there. So,
Nice. Come on.
The guided tour is ended. Love you guys. Blessing.
Yeah, they know.
Big money car, Champion D.
so we get out this way.
Get closer.
Yeah, that's it.
Jump up top. Jump up top. Good boy.
That's very close.